Okay, then good afternoon, everybody, all the attendees that are here, and good afternoon to you too, or good morning. It depends, or good evening even, depends where you are tuning in from. Welcome to the second part of our live. The first one was a couple of weeks ago, and it was on Instagram Live. And today, instead, we continue here. We also have an added guest joining us today, and I'm very much looking forward to his contribution to today's discussion, which was around, and which is actually still, around what we can continue to learn from the evolution of co-working and co-living. Now, before I forget, please let me remind you that you can drop your questions in the comments or in the chat in here, and we will try to pick them up. We should be able to have some time to reply to those ones too, although we have quite a content-rich half an hour ahead of us. Now, let me tell you who is with me today and who is joining me. So we have Petr from Spaceflow, who was with us also a couple of weeks ago. And then we have Christian and our Alex as well from SALTO. And me, obviously, I have forgot myself. And I am Kate, and I am the Community and Partnership Manager at SALTO Systems. And Jens, would you like to briefly introduce yourself, please? Maybe we can start with you, Petr.
Yes, so I'm doing all things marketing at Spaceflow. I've joined the company 4 years ago, so not right at the start, but not so much after the start. And what is Spaceflow about? Spaceflow creates digital experiences to enable better life in buildings. So we integrate data, technology, and people, and we help both commercial and residential landlords to go through digital transformation and to connect buildings with the people that work and live inside them.
Christian?
Perfect. Yeah. So Christian here. I'm really looking forward to the session. I'm responsible and being the global lead for shared living and workspace at SALTO Systems. So in our definition, shared living is co-living with all its flavors, PBSA, purpose-built student accommodations and service apartments, and workspaces is really looking after the co-working evolution and corporate working office markets of offering flex offices as well. So I think Alex and myself, we can give also a glimpse on what SALTO is doing. So I will start with my bit, and Alex, please continue. So as SALTO is being a lock manufacturer from its core, we're really looking into the products being transferred into solutions and experiences, which we sell and offer our consultancy assistance for projects, starting with the concept phase to our customers, where we really educate and empower them to use the right technical infrastructure, including, at the end of the day, hopefully, our access control and management solutions. And I'm really looking forward again to this session today.
Thanks, Christian. So yes, my name is Alexander. I'm the global lead for our technology partners and integration partners. That means I manage the portfolio of all our technology partners in both the hardware and software side of things. So one of those, of course, is Spaceflow. So very excited to be here in our call and explain a little bit about that. And yeah, as Christian already mentioned, a large part of what we do is creating these experiences, going from just, what people might assume being a lock manufacturer to really offering that experience for, tenants, residents, guests, and yeah, thinking about all these use cases. And I'm sure we'll discuss a few of these today as well. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Actually, I am very pleased you could also join us today. And as you are here, especially covering your role, I would like for you, if possible, to add something with regard to the partnership that is in fact between Spaceflow and SALTO. Maybe you can tell us a little bit, why this partnership is a match made in heaven.
Sure. So yeah, match made in heaven. Well, actually, it started, I think, a bit over a year ago that I got introduced to Spaceflow. And what happened was that there was a customer that was asking for, a specific experience for their property. And during those discussions that we had from SALTO side, we were put into contact with Spaceflow, and Spaceflow was also part in creating that, user experience, in creating that tenant experience in that particular location. And that was actually the first time we met. And I think what triggered us to really push forward with our partnership, which we did quite quickly, because it's been a bit over a year, but in that period of time, we've done a lot together already. So that's always a good sign, of course, that things move fast. And I think that is because of a shared idea and a shared vision about how we would like to improve these experiences for our customers and our users. And that was something that we were, I think, aligned on and had in common. So that allowed us to work together quickly and to create, already a year later, some great references in our collaboration. So yes, match made in heaven, I think, would be apt.
Or a match made in space, considering the name.
Indeed.
Excuse my pun, no pun intended, as we say here. But anyway, lovely, thank you. I really like. I'm going to pick up on a couple of things that you just said. So the shared and the together, which I think is something that is very important, and that for us, for me, especially being, a community and partnership manager, I strongly believe that, as Christian often say, together is better, and that together we are much stronger and we can achieve more. But going back a little bit to what we started last week, I would like to pick up from a question that really sparked a lot of interest actually during our last live. But the last time we didn't have really enough time to deep into it. We started to discuss what is the future of cities and how coliving and coworking, which in fact are both shared, and the whole co-movement anyway, will have a big impact on all of this. So my question again is, what are the overall challenges of urbanization, and how can our city become a better place to live and work? So Petr, would you like to follow through?
Yeah, sure. I think the challenge is quite obvious, and that is the massive shift to cities. There's expected that by 2050 there will be 70% of people living in cities. So the congestion and all of the things that follow are definitely a challenge. There, I think, is the concept of city of 15 minutes is really taking up some hold. And I think that's also where pandemic helped a little unintentionally, that are, and we talked about it last time on our Instagram live session, that the places of home and the places of work kind of blend together. And for many people, they are the same right now. Even for me, I mostly work from home. So I think that where what impact that shift to cities will have is that concept of where we work and live, either on the same place or the places that are very that are located near to each other. So the hassle of commuting will be kind of diminished, and I think that's also one of the everlasting impact also of the pandemic, that that there is expected, or there is about 30 to 50% people came back to offices right now, and it applies to many cities that that there is not fear about coming back to the office because of COVID or health-related issue, but the main hassle is the commute and the time that we spend in there. So I think the thing that we can do for cities to become more livable is ending that commute and making places to work and live closer together.
Look at Christian happy face. He's like, yeah, I'm on it. That's my 15-minute city. I'm going to talk about it. Just go for it.
Now, well done. So I agree, Petr. So you mentioned a lot of good points I had also already thought of. But I mean, maybe I dive in and bridge some comments from you in with my thoughts as well. So last Instagram Live, I mentioned something like, what if we don't depend on the city for work? And what is if we then can really enjoy it? So, I mean, it's beside the point that we still have cities where we go and commute to and we will work there. But as you mentioned, the acceleration last year where basically everybody, also those who were maybe not, also from a company point of view, were not that remote thinking, were put into the remote shoes, that has basically changed a lot. And I mean, looking last century where business strategies, strategic people said, we depend on the city for work because we see them as a talent pool. Now, with all the new technology coming into play, we don't really depend on these cities for a talent pool anymore. I mean, look at ourselves, Alex, look at our company as also how we look out for the best talents in the world. So we don't have to look into a specific region. So does it mean that city will die? You already gave the answer, Petr. So there is still, I mean, although COVID and the pandemic had some limitations, still people would like to live in cities. And I think from that, if we understand these as an application and these going forward, we just have to understand the generations and their mindsets and their desires. So we said more people would like to share than own. We know that the statistics that people getting married, if at all, later. Have children way later than older generations. So all of that shifts into a new way of how we would like to live and experience. And I mean, the first time now we have really, a diverse workforce. Working all together. So we have now 4 generations working all together side by side, but all coming with a different mindset. So we have the millennials, we have the baby boomers, we have, Gen Z, I believe, and now Gen X. All of these 4 are working side by side together. And we have, by maybe to put another fact out there, so by 2030, 75% of the workforce will be millennials. So all of that will drive into a certain situation where if we look at the urbanization and how cities will be the city of tomorrow, that we have still the challenges of 3 main ones. So we have density in cities. So we will see continuously more density in cities. So, and that is because also of the zoning rules we have in place, right? So we have certain zoning rules and limited living areas. So how can we build affordable and accessibility to those who would like to live in a city? This is a challenge, and a real challenge, which I think often is underestimated, is the way of getting isolated. So more people in the new generations would like to go to a city because they would like to experience the city, but at the same time they get isolated. So this is the loneliness a lot of people are talking about. And the co-evolution has the community building approach, which is really could be, in my point of view, one of the ways to tackle these challenges. Now, this was for part 1, and then you said I really would like to keep it short, but you also asked, Kate, how then cities can become better places at the end of the day. So I think, Petr, again, you mentioned the 50-minute city, one of my favorite topics, which then ends up into what is then the new purpose of the city. So we are looking into those cycles of 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. And then definitely there are many topics, content enough for another 5 Instagram Lives or LinkedIn Lives, where we can ask ourselves, do we really need a car in the city, many disruptive technologies taking market shares, as an example. So blending it into the real estate market, as it's becoming more and more volatile due to more short-term leases than rather long-term leases, I think we would see that we have to build communities inside, and that is what I call always the inside revolution of buildings. But at the same time, we have to connect with the neighborhood. So how can we really build the 50-minute city as one of those solutions coming into it? And then the challenge is, to me, how we really can build the better places to live and work, whether it's a co-evolution, revolution, is really with a focus on those operators, which are really driving the asset value today, is being individual. So how can we make space attractive? So a place what we at the end of the day would call home. How can we scale? So being able to scale with an operational efficiency behind, but while maintaining actually the core values of my tenants, the residents, being human-centered. And I have a third one again, which is being adaptable. So allocating space, in my point of view, according to the need of the humans using the building. And that's where, again, I think both parties, Spaceflow and us, can contribute a lot.
Well, that's good. Thank you for being short in your explanation. So it was really fun, because when you said I'm going to keep it short, me, Peter and Alex straight away started to laugh, because we know you're not able to. But it's okay. Thank you for sharing all the information. Now, actually, what you just set up nicely into what I also would like to ask you further, which is, so we just said, how can city become a better place to be, right? So I want to tap and I challenge you a little further into actually not just our city, but how can our building become a better place to live and work? For example, Peter, on your website, in the user section, you highlighted that there is like the importance of change, how you connect with buildings. And that for me, it's very important, and I absolutely love it. So I am a big fan of connection. I like to connect in anything and with anyone. And I would like to find out more about the importance of connection, and how much do you think technology impact this, and how does it actually help? So Peter, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think building historically haven't been neither interconnected and connected to people. And with technology, finally, we have now the opportunity to change that. And we're really glad that the tenant experience and apps meant for tenants are finally, landlords are thinking about this from a portfolio perspective. So in the past few years, we have seen landlords trying this technology on individual assets. What we see now is landlords really implementing this technology on a wide scale. And that is something that would immensely change the experience of tenants, and the technology will bring you closer to the building that you spend most of your life in, whether it's an office building or it's your home. You could say that's maybe 90% of your life, right? Of the time you spend. So I think with the technology, there is definitely more convenient way to have your services around and to ask for everything. What we imagine at Spaceflow is that the whole tenant life cycle and all the needs occupiers have throughout the day will be covered through one channel, one platform. So everything from starting the relationship with the landlord from the contract side to actually accessing the building through what we have, integration of SALTO and Spaceflow or other then other smart building features, then the services that you have around the amenities, bookings, and so on to connect to your community. That's what we have seen during the pandemic, especially in our build to rent and co-living projects. That was really a popular feature to get connected to other people in that building. And I think that really is something that tech can help. You can ask yourself how many of your neighbors you really know, or people from other companies that are not your coworkers, right? And making that first step through without technology might be not so easy. So that's where we help as well. So yeah, what we imagine really is that the whole experience tenants have will be transformed into online, into tech world, and that this will help all parties involved.
Alex, you want to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to add something, and I think I completely agree with Petr. And what is interesting is that we've worked together, so Spaceflow and SALTO, in projects during the pandemic, where there was a very interesting trend. So everybody knows that during the pandemic, everybody worked more from home, everybody worked more remote. They maybe looked more towards their own direct environment, because at the end of the day, that is all where you maybe were allowed to go, right, with the restrictions that were in place. And what you saw happening is that certain operator or property managers, when they had new builds or they were planning new projects, that they were including some of these features and some of this technology that Petr is talking about. So creating a community, setting up this community and the tools to manage and support that community in their new properties. So that is something that, we consult as SALTO on quite a bit, as Christian has already mentioned, and Petr with Spaceflow, of course, as well. And over the course of that project, you saw that the attitude of the property managers also started to change towards their current assets. So where they made new properties, maybe with the most high-tech and flashy and nice features, they were not necessarily convinced about retrofitting their old assets into supporting the same model. But during the pandemic, I think they were confronted with such a boost and jump in popularity of these tools and this technology in their new assets that now we're in discussion suddenly as to how to absorb and include those older assets into the same flow as well. So these were people that were perhaps not convinced, or maybe they had never thought about this kind of community approach, this interconnectedness of their assets. And now suddenly that has, I think that engagement with that topic has really skyrocketed. And this is something where I'm happy and proud in a way for both SALTO and Spaceflow to be able to be kind of on the forefront of that discussion, of having already thought about these things in the last couple of years. Even before the pandemic, we saw this shift towards, more connectedness in terms of technology, but also in terms of the people outside of your bubble, outside of your own asset, or maybe outside of your own office or your own living space or floor, into having that, feeling part of a larger organization, as maybe people relate to their workplace as identifying with that, but not necessarily where they live, or vice versa. And I think for everyone to kind of move into that direction is something that is a very exciting thing to see. And I think at the end of the day, it's technology that allows us to leverage those societal changes and enable people to enjoy that and to work towards something like that for both residents, tenants, operators, property managers. I think it's the entire chain that has to move in order to make it all happen.
Yes, I agree. Go on, Christian.
No, I just wanted to add, because this is such an important point Alex mentioned, where we see what I meant prior was that the real estate market becomes more volatile, and that's actually the point. So everything is shifting into the more operator concept. So the value of an asset is not just the asset and its location, it's also the value of how successful the operator is facilitating the experience to the customer of the customer we don't know. And I think that has helped, and that was maybe the positive impact out of COVID, that even those who were maybe not remote thinking, who were not based on integrated, embedded to this model are now used to it or getting used to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, connections and communities for me are very important. I really like that. So, Christian, you mentioned often, at SALTO especially, we often say the community is the key to many other things. So I wanted to go even deeper. So we started how to get better city, how city can get better, how we can do that with the building. And now my third question is actually inside the buildings, how can communities become better so that living and working within this community will be something that, it would be truly wanted? And how can the end user experience be elevated by these services that we can offer and then we can add to the building to actually help the communities? Look at your smiley face.
I see the clock time, and I would say rather let's organize the next session with Peter and Alex. But now I try to keep it short for you. So
okay.
Now, actually, everybody who is in the scene and would have worked with Spaceflow or SALTO in these concept phases and to build really a true community, we always see, okay, we have a user experience way of looking at it, an angle which interferes with the best spatial design for building that community as well, and then maybe tech as an enabler. And why I say now maybe tech, and we are ourselves a tech provider, is I think at the end, we have to be honest, everything also depends on the scale. So if you have a little community which you would build on an island somewhere else, you maybe don't need that much tech as you maybe would use it if you go and scale into, especially in the city. And in here we have, I already see myself not being that short as I want to, but I try to keep on the time. Now, what we then see is that if we go and discuss that with our customers in the field, one of the first questions is, what is the best cluster size? So a cluster, basically, how big could a community be? So if you, that question, for everybody who is interested, can maybe Google Dunbar's law. So that maybe gives you some insights how to build the right cluster size, the right community size. And then it all starts with a good understanding of the customer needs, and the well-trained community manager, which is not someone who is just working at the reception desk, but really who is someone who understands how to build that community, is really needed, because that is someone who comes with a lot of passion and can really grow the community within a building. And that is actually, at the end of the day, that's key. Now, once it's scaling, especially, as I said, in cities where you maybe have bigger properties, maybe more than one cluster within a building, tech can be an enormous enabler to build communities from the get-go, so assisting the human behind. I think that is already another important note. So tech is not here to just disruptive and take the humans out of the building and have everything with used by technology and no humans helping. So this is somewhere where we build communities from a different angle, using technology as an assistant to build an efficient way, allocating to building communities.
I like that. Technology is an assistant. I like that. I can see that in the next on our next T-shirt already. So would any of you like to add anything at all? I know we are super, we ran out of time already, but if you have a short thought, feel free to pop in.
Yeah, maybe one short thought about that as well is that, looking at new projects that cross our desk, talking to, operators, property developers, property managers of all kinds, it is key that the point that Christian highlighted at the start, I think, to have these discussions around what do you want your building to be and what do you want your community to be. I think, coming from the previous era of maybe organizing a building and building in general with RFPs or RFIs and tender projects and having long lists of checkboxes about features and things that you want. I think that is those are not suited anymore to today's world. I think it gives a very one-dimensional view of a building. I mean, you'll never know when the time comes if this RFP is still relevant to your actual daily operation or what that experience you want to have. And I think supporting and being in these conversations to give examples, to give best practices and references and cases of where, maybe we've had similar projects in our portfolio to really broaden the horizon of the people that are, managing and organizing these new build-to-rents or co-living spaces or co-working spaces or whatever it might be. It doesn't matter. I think having more of these type of discussions will be good for the industry in general and for the quality of properties and communities that are created. So I think that is something that certainly Christian and I can speak for myself as well, that is something that if it crosses our desk, we are super happy to always jump into and discuss. And then, tying that into a partner like with Spaceflow, doing that together where, we are both involved. And yeah, I think that collaborative effort is what's going to be key in the coming years.
Connecting the dots.
Indeed.
Another t-shirt on the way. Well, so we have a few questions, but I know that we are running out of time. So I'm going to ask you if you are okay to stay for a couple of more minutes to reply to a couple of questions. Yeah, you are okay, Peter, as well? Yeah, okay. So we have a question actually from Chungcha. I'm sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. He was asking, actually, we were talking a lot about how we can improve the user experience, also with the help of technology. And he was just saying, can we have some specific example? Because he will find them quite useful. Go,
sure.
Alex.
Sure. I think already one that regarding the project that was mentioned previously in this slide is that, for example, there is a property which consists of multiple, so a co-working space, there is a working space in that property, there's a residential aspect to the property, there's a parking garage which is used by both the tenants, but also outside, just for external use. Having all these different type of properties in one building requires that you align different use cases there. So the resident might want to use the co-working space as well without being directly part of it, right? So they might want to rent a space there, a meeting room, because they don't want to sit in their apartment all day. Maybe they've seen the same 3 walls for the last 15 months, so they want to have a new view. Then what we've been able to do is actually getting that key, a digital key on their app, in the Spaceflow app, for example, in that case, allowing access to both your residents, but also to the co-working place. Coming from the same profile, the same key, having that aligned use case in the same community app as well, allowing you to see who maybe else is there at the office, are there any events going on? So really tying in that residential aspect of your apartment that then can tie into a place where you work. I think historically we've seen amenity spaces, of course, being a bit tied into a residential aspect if you have a gym or a swimming pool. But I think that was just phase one. I think people had the right idea already then, but really taking that a lot further to amenities, also the restaurant bookings, co-working spaces, your own living space, maybe the parking for people that are visiting, whether that's a professional visit then in the co-working or whether that's even a personal visit for your residential place. And really making that city within a city, a building. It can be multiple towers that all have their own use, so a mixed use property basically, and then creating your own little city. And I think that's the technology, that is what we allow today, that is what's possible. And that is, I think, what even the property managers did not realize, that their different assets could combine into creating their own miniature city that is managed and operated by a single platform.
Anyone else want to add something before we wrap up and we close? Peter?
Are there more questions, actually?
I can only agree with what Alexander said. Some of our clients even prove this with, we have one of the clients, and it's basically 2 high towers, two skyscrapers that include hotel, residency, office, wellness, and shopping mall all together. So it is really a city within a city for a whole day or week. You don't need to escape if you want. I think that question from Cha was a bit more specific. He was asking if co-living and co-working coexist, and if there are any examples of successful development. I can again name one of our clients, which is Gravity. We've just launched their fourth location with them, and yeah, we can see that all those co-living projects already include co-working areas. And I think the future really is in that on-demand mode where you can use this also as a public. So booking whatever space you want. That's also actually our vision from the start, that you will be able to switch the spaces in the app, and you can join as a public in perhaps if you're on vacation or if you're visiting your branch in another city. So you can easily connect to that building and to the building profile to use everything that the residents can or a part of it.
It's interesting you mentioned Gravity, because yesterday I actually sent a message to Robert, the operation manager, and I just said, "Hey, look, we're having a chat, so you definitely need to come in tomorrow." So it's cute that you've mentioned them. So yeah, good.
Great.
Yes, I was asking both questions actually. He was just saying that, so thank you for picking that question up, which I would have otherwise maybe missed. So thank you for that. And he was also asking about some successful example of building communities. And I don't know if you want to tap into that question, but I think both example Alex and Peter gave also show how important it is and how achievable it is to build communities.
Sure, I can give an answer here as well. So I think what Peter and Alex already mentioned is now the straight connecting the dots example between the Spaceflow platform and access control. But we can also zoom out a bit and say, okay, what elements really helps to improve customer experience? And that is, especially if it comes to community, we are looking into those phases which are called the discovery and curation phase. So the phase where actually a user has not yet signed or is in the signing process to go and live or work at a certain place, but he or she hasn't been there yet. So the phase which was in the past very often underestimated is now becoming part of the entire journey of a customer experience curve, where you really can already allow people to maybe meet people or understand the concept on site, and also from an operator point of view, already make it, kind of interviewing process to also check if she is a good fit for that community cluster which you would like to build in that living or working place, or does it meet certain requirements? So in order to build a true community later on, which already gives you a higher chance that you don't have someone going or maybe being not that useful for the community which is already built on site. So I think that is also where we see technology being part of that journey. And if it then comes to the first touch point, a human or technology touch point on site, there's where now I have to speak about us a bit on SALTO. So where you can say old ways won't open new doors, in the way of that a mechanical key in the way can be definitely replaced by a digital key, like Alexander mentioned already. But it's also that virtually you can open many new doors, which means that as data opens the door, we exchange a lot of data with Spaceflow from an operator concept, which then allows the same data to be used for other applications. So maybe personalized messages. Hey, Alexander, nice meeting you the first time. We are in touch with you soon. So you can really act on with the data. And that is where I think the biggest potential in the user experience improvements are, that you really allow these corporations, like we do with Spaceflow, that we really touch point not just on the core minimal viable product, which is allowing access to different doors in a certain time, but also working on these experiences from a user going into a building, what he would like to experience at that time. And that could be different from how it was maybe seen a couple of years ago.
Great. Well, thank you very much. This is this was supposed to be a 30 minutes event. We managed to keep it under 45, so that's good. That's an achievement. And thank you very much for everybody that stayed with us up to now. I know a few people had to leave. So if there is any question at all that you would like to have more, I think everybody's details is in the event. I think, Petr, they can reach you directly through your LinkedIn, if I'm not wrong. Would that be okay? If anyone needs to have a chat with you and would like to find out more.
Sure.
And I guess same thing goes for Alex and Christian as well. So please feel free, if you want to contact me for any reason, feel free to as well. And I am really looking forward to have more of this chat, Petr, if you would be up for it as well. Every time we have one, Christian always drops something saying, okay, this is something we should discuss next time. So I really have enjoyed both Instagram Live a couple of weeks ago and also today. And I would like to thank you, Alex, also for giving some of your time and your precious contribution. And yeah, I guess from me, that's all. So thank you, and please be in touch. And hopefully we'll see you again very soon for the next episode of the Spaceflow SALTO saga. So.
Thanks so much for hosting this.
Thanks, Kate. For hosting.
Thanks, Kate. Have a lovely day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.